sit back, relax, we got the brain of band. No need to stress, in the house is Van Bellen. The game is windsurfing, you can't yell them or tell them. We get the news, the views, the win biz. The brand's gear, tips plus the world's best quiz. The cars, PWA. We're professionals without the pay. There's nothing in pole dancing that we won't chat. From tandem boards to a windsurfing cat. It's your one-stop shop for a laugh and listen. Tune in each week or you'll be doing the missing.
Morning, afternoon, good evening.
Betty.
What is it? Evening.
Hi, Betty. Evening here, mate.
Evening. Welcome back to the podcast.
Welcome. Just adjust my t-shirt.
How's
the
sponsored rider? For people who don't know, Paul Van Bellen is now a sponsored rider. He had to do a t-shirt change before this stream went live to his other Goya t-shirt.
I had to take my Ezzy t-shirt off and put the Goya one on.
No. That's how you're rolling these days.
The truth of the matter is, I sometimes get sent t-shirts and I never buy clothes. So it's the only clothes I have.
I can't say anything.
Funny, isn't it?
I can't say anything.
I just never buy it. I never buy clothes. How was South Africa?
Yeah, well, let's just maybe. What's going on? We're going to bring him back the podcast. I've obviously, for people who've been following me or the channel, they will know I've been in Cape Town for the last 6 weeks, pretty much 7 weeks, doing the Send It Academy, which is like we take 10 senders and we go for a week, we show them give them some tips, we film them, we get them to progress, so have a good time, and it's been absolutely epic. But it is full on, I won't lie. Every time I go, I've got this like impression I'm going to be doing this, I'm going to do that, and you just realize that on these clinics, the coaching clinics, or when you're traveling around Cape Town, you're not just staying at one beach, you're driving everywhere, and it's full on, but it's such a good time. And for me, I really enjoy it, but also I get to go sailing a little bit as well. So now I'm kind of revitalized, ready for 2025. Yeah. And I'm, when you hang out, this is what's so good about these coaching clinics. And maybe, it's a little bit of a steal for me, because you get to hang out with people who are all trying to push their level. They're there to push their level. And no matter what level you're at, it kind of makes you want to get better. You want to step up, you want to sort of push your own level, which I think is super interesting to feel that kind of it's good. So good. So we are going to kick back in with the podcast. We have promised a lot and we have delivered very little so far in 2025.
Have we actually promised a lot? I don't actually.
Well, I think I might have, because we did have the Hall of Famers, which is the big guns, the ones that have kind of laid down the foundations for windsurfing. And I had this grand plan that we were going to get all of them pretty much in and back to back, banging them out. Pete Carina's been on the phone for how long you've got him on the hook? You've been telling him, and I'm like, every time you ring me, I'm like, I don't know if we can do it this week. So we've got some big names that are ready.
We have to get him on at some point. Or hopefully he still wants to come on, Benny, I'll be honest, because the amount of times I've said, you're coming on, and then something comes up. But but anyway, I've been kind of following it, obviously, through basically Instagram. That seems to be the main channel to find news on what's going on in the windsurf world. But obviously at this time of year, or last month or two, a lot of news about people coming and going off brands. I mean, that's something I was maybe hoping you could educate me a bit, because you're probably a bit more in the know.
Yeah. So I think like this podcast for me is more like, let's go. We're back in with the podcast. We're going to start coming. I'm back home now because I didn't have good internet in Cape Town. It kept dropping out, which is why we didn't do any live podcasts. But now I'm back. I'm in the office. I'm set up. We've got good internet connection. You're coming more to the end of your Aussie season, still in full flow. You're in February. Mm-hmm. So probably you've still got wind around. I've seen you dropping some great clips. But the plan is to do more podcasts now. So one of the podcasts we definitely want to cover is sponsorship changes, because there's been some movers and shakers and some big names. There's also been some competitions going on, which, I think that says something where we're at the moment. We're having some more high profile, not 5-star events so far, but we've had some 4-star events in the IWT or the WWT or the WWF. I don't know what's it called these days. It's called WW. WW. There's a lot of W's in it, and it's not the World Wildlife. It's the World. What is it?
What? It's World Wave Tour. World Wave
Tour. So you've been involved with that because you've been over in Margaret River. So I actually did a live stream with Colin Dixon where we kind of, if people watched it on Windsurfing TV, where we kind of, did a kind of rerun of the live heats. We haven't seen them. We just commented them as if they were live, but interesting conditions. And, Margaret River back on the map, and hopefully maybe one day that ends up being a 5-star and we see all the big names there. But we did see Philip Costa there. We did see Jacob Stone there, some big names, Julian Salmon. These guys are all podium contenders at a 5-star event. So that's a pretty solid lineup. You were there filming. How did it go from your side?
Yeah, it was cool. It was actually the first time I've ever flown a drone at Margie. So that was, for me, that was cool. So the first, basically while the event was running, the waves weren't mega huge. Like, if you watched it, you would have seen the size. They were decent size. Like probably some of the sets were getting up to, a logo, maybe with some masked ones, I guess, but it was kind of often there'll be mainly logo size, which is actually for a lot of places that would be considered a big day, but at Margie's it's like a small day almost, Yeah. And it was cool. There was controversy, obviously with some of the scores and the judging, at Margie's. If you've ever been there, there's basically a hillside, if you like, you overlook the break. The break it's not too far away, but it's a bit like Western Australia, the sun's
kind
of except it's probably a little bit, it's further away from the break than Hokipa. I think Hokipa is a bit closer. And the other thing at Hokipa is you've got the sun setting behind you, so you have a very good panoramic shot of the lineup in a very good lighting. At Margie's, the sun setting behind the sailors, so you do get a fair bit of glare in the afternoon. So basically, judging was a bit of an issue. There was a few sailors that were, I guess, a little bit unhappy with their scoring. It's always, I've only been to a few events, especially on the World Tour, and in my experience, every event, there's always someone that's not going to be stoked with a score. Like it's the nature of the beast, because sometimes.
Yeah, just offering my 2 pence worth here, because I've obviously been a sailor and I've also watched a lot of heats doing the live scoring. People are going to have personal preferences to what style of riding they want and how they judge in. So as long as the judges set out a criteria and they stick to it in theory, but I know just from trying to judge even at a national level, for me, if you've got a couple of different people on a wave, it's impossible to see it. And when you watch it at home, you can replay it. You kind of see it because the camera's looking at it. Like you can take it for granted, like, well, it was obvious. And you're like, well, actually, that judge is not that camera. That camera is that camera. And if it's pointing at the sailor you're looking at and you go, yeah, but that turn was rubbish. Well, that turn was amazing. If the judge is looking at 3 other guys on different parts of the wave, it might just be that he's slightly in the corner of his eye when it happens. And sometimes this is a big difference, because I can say when we did the live run through of the heats, I saw Scott McCurch. What happened to him? Because obviously he's Margie local, but it looked okay in the early round, although he got taken out by Ian Pott. But then even in the reportage round, I think he got 1 point or 0 points or something. So I wasn't sure. Did he get what happened there? Did he? I don't know. I was just trying. I came up with a few ideas, but I didn't know when I was commenting. I was like, shit, I wish I'd have found out what happened.
Yeah. So a few things happened. So in Scotty's heat, I'm not a Margie's local. I've only sailed there a few times, so I'm still trying to understand the place. But around 3-4 p.m., the wind at Margie's generally sort of drops and then can change a bit more offshore. Like it might be cross on, and then at 3-4 p.m. it drops down a bit, switches angle, a bit more cross off, and then can pick up or whatever. Depends on the forecast. So on this day, Scotty had his heat around that sort of 3-4 p.m. time. I can't remember exactly. And he went out. He decided to go out, I guess, on a board that was on the smaller side. And the wind dropped. And the other guys in the heat, I guess, had boards that were maybe slightly bigger volume for them or whatever, but they were able to just move around a bit more. And Scotty was basically dead in the water. He was out the back and was struggling to move, I guess. And I was sitting in this caravan where the judges were sitting, and people were sort of debating, is there enough wind? Should we call the heat off? But the problem was for Scotty was out of everyone in the heat, he was the only one sitting around, whereas everyone else was moving around getting waves. So they kind of thought, well, I guess he's on the wrong gear. You know what I mean? It's like...
Okay, so from an unbiased opinion, wasn't there, got no interest in, whatever side I would take. But from a neutral standpoint, I'm looking at it and going, he gambled on smaller gear because it's obviously on smaller gear, you could do better turns. You want to be on your small gear if you can. And if you gamble on smaller gear and the other guys gamble, let's say if it's a gamble on bigger gear and you don't get planing, that's you've gambled the wrong way and you need to come in and change. And then on the flip side, you have to remember, let's say the wind had picked up. These guys on bigger gear are not going to be doing as good at turns, and they've gambled. They might have even looked at the weather and gone, you know what, it's a bit iffy. I don't want to go on the bigger gear, but I think in the heat, it makes sense because I've been in that position before in Tenerife where I've took the right gear. I've gone on my bigger gear and they called the heat off because Danny Bruce, yes, was not going so well. And I was having a great heat. I would have gone through. And I'm like, well, come on, is that my fault? So, I don't know. I've always been a bit like that with slalom. It's the same thing. Someone takes small gear, someone gambles on the big gear. If it gets windy, the guy in the big gear, they don't say, look at the guy in the big gear. He's dying out there. He's struggling to make his jibes. They just go, And when it's the other way, it does work. But I can imagine, Scotty, it's his local break. He probably could win that event. He can take down anyone in the world on his day. And it is frustrating. I'm sure he didn't want to go out like that. I can imagine.
No, and especially because it was a quarterfinal, so pretty early on for him, I guess, being a local break. But I don't know. If you spoke to Scotty, he might give you a different opinion. I think in his eye, they should have cut the heat. But I guess the judges or whoever the event organizer just looked at it and thought, well, the other guys are getting waves, even though they weren't planing. It was all floating right.
It's very difficult. If the other guys are scoring, when you're the head judge, you're like, well, is it fairer to cancel the heat? And two guys that were totally fine, you're like, we're going to send you back out. And they go, yeah, well, we're going to stay on the same gear. It's like, we chose the right gear because that is part of competition. This is, again, everyone's got different sides. I wasn't there, but I'm thinking what the judges are thinking. They're like, well, he's took the wrong gear. That's not really our fault. If everyone takes the wrong gear, it's kind of like, okay, well, this is a really bad heat because no one's catching anything. You have to cancel it. But then there's usually been a change in the conditions, which no one was predicting. But if there's a change and there's 3 people out and 2 of them are still cruising around, we've seen it with Costa in Cape Verde before. We've seen it, the bigger riders sometimes struggle. But I mean, it's difficult, but I could see why the judges said that. I'm sure Scotty's pissed off, but because I was wondering what happened. I saw the score and I thought, maybe he broke something. Maybe, I don't know, missed his heat.
No, just couldn't get waves, basically. I think the wind started off with a little bit more wind. It was just one of those heats where it just progressively went downhill. But so he was
Was that the controversy of the event? Was that the?
Well, that was one of them. There was that, and then obviously Jager. I mean, Jager. Obviously a pretty red hot sort of favorite. I mean, Costa was there and obviously Julian Salmon, but if you were a betting man, I guess you'd go on either Jager or Costa, I guess. And So that was a bit of a surprise that he didn't progress to the semi, but it was a bit of a combination of things. Pete Kenyon or Geraldine local just sailed his brains out. I mean, with all due respect to Pete, but Jager is obviously on another level to Pete as a sailor. But in this particular heat, Pete just sailed sailed really good for him.
I remember the heat, and he had one really, really sick hit on a big section out the back. I mean, I'd never heard of him, hands in the air. I'm sorry, Pete, I'm sorry. But I was like, who's this dude? And he's like, he smacked this section out the back, and someone said, oh, he's 50 odd. He's Geraldton local. He comes from the East Coast, doesn't he? Or some northeast or somewhere.
Originally, but he's been living in Geraldton for ages now.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's around Brisbane area. But anyway, look, Pete had a really good heat. I mean, look, again, all due respect to Pete here, he's not at an elite level or anything like that, but he can wave ride. And so anyway, he got a good the aerial.
Yeah.
He had a backup wave. Like, this is, I guess, where there's a bit of a controversy. He had a backup wave where he basically did this late hit under the lip and sort of bashed this lip and then came down. If you watch it on the replay, I mean, I'm not a judge, but you probably, I don't know, what would you give that? Like, I mean, you know better than me, Ben, but like for a late hit that's kind of not really a proper sort of time turn, like kind of thing. I mean,
I remember it because me and Colin were talking about it, and actually the first time we saw it, I was like, oh, and I was thinking. Then we actually watched it because we had this replay on our stuff anyway, and he kind of mistimed it. It kind of hit him rather than he hit it, which was still late, but it was, and he held on to it. So he had that moment of, oh my God, is he going to hold on to it? Which was quite impressive. But I know, and I've talked about this before, the Kelly Slater wave from years ago, where Slater went for something, I can't remember, it's like air reverse or something, messed it up, came off the board, landed on the board on his belly, surfed down, stood back up, and I was going, oh my God, that's got to be a 10. And then they gave him like a 3.4 or something. And I was like losing my head at home thinking, what the hell are they doing? That was the fucking insanest thing I've ever seen. And then at the end, like the news were kind of like, to Kelly Slater, like, well, can you believe they only give you? And he's like, yeah, I didn't even deserve that. I totally, in his eyes, which he should be the one going, oh, if it was good, he'd be claiming it. And he was like, oh my God, embarrassing. Oh, it was terrible because I totally messed it up and I saved it. Yeah, it was worth a 2 or something. He said, I'm lucky I even got a 3.5. And I was thinking, wow, that's interesting because for me as an amateur, I thought it was epic, best thing I'd ever seen. And then the guy who did it was like, yeah, it was worth nothing. So I think sometimes that's kind of the different thing because in competition, you're looking to execute something perfectly. And if you have a save, yes, it's epic. Yes, it's going to win the internet, but should it be marked as such? And listening to Kelly Slater, who is the freaking GOAT, he's like, no. I went for an air reverse. It should have been an air reverse. If he'd have landed on 1 foot backwards and still say, yeah, that's different. But he was on his belly in the water. So I think there's different ways to look at it. But I know what you waved. It was near the beginning of the heat, that wave, and it scored relatively high. Yeah, I thought compared to some of the makes. Is that what Jager's saying?
Yeah.
Is that what he's saying?
Well, yeah. I mean, look, it's tough to talk about some of this stuff after the event, of course, because you feel it's a bit of a sensitive topic for certain people. But I think that score got a 5.17, and then but the thing with it was that if you were able to see a replay of it, you might not have given it a 5.17, right? You might have given it a 3.5 or a 4 or even. And I think that score was the difference, obviously, with Jager getting through and not. And I think the issue too was, I mean, this is just my opinion, might be wrong, but when you're sitting in the caravan up there on the hill at Margie's looking down at the break, especially, being a bit later in the day, it can be a bit hard, especially if your eyesight is not super sharp, to see the nuances of the turns. Like if you're not paying full attention, or you're just, again, you don't have great eyesight.
Well, it can just.
Oh, well, that's the other thing. There's potentially 3 people on, on a set wave, on different waves in a set. So you're trying to concentrate on different things going on. But all you're seeing is, if you're not paying full attention, you're seeing a guy bottom turn and just seeing a bash and just seeing water go everywhere. And then coming down, and from your perspective, someone's just done a sick hit and go, oh, you know what I mean? But then you look at it on the video later and you go, oh shit, that was like, he almost stacked it because it was pretty out of control almost, or something. Like, you know what I mean? So anyway, and then on the flip side from Jaeger, I mean, you could sit there and argue that he did actually get the score enough to get through. But the other part for Jaeger is, I mean, I've watched Jaeger sail now quite a bit. I've been filming him a bit, and you see him sailing all the time. And I will say that, he probably didn't have his best heat either. Like, in a sense, you could argue that he got the score needed to get through. But on the flip side, I know he can sail a lot better or do more, a lot better than he did in that heat too. So it was a combination of things. It was Pete absolutely going ballistic for his level, Jaeger probably sailing under his level, and then some questionable decisions. And that's how I see it.
Well, what was the famous saying? Again, I've mentioned it before, but is it Kelly Slater once again? It says the judges are gonna fuck you. In other words, like, if you leave it close, you could get messed. You could lose. So if you leave it close, you haven't done enough. You've got to put it out the park, and then you don't have to worry about the judging because you put it so far out the park that it doesn't matter. And if, and that's the kind of mindset you have to have in competition. If it's close, you have to be ready for to not go your way, because some of them are going to go your way, which you'll never remember. You will always forget. You'll be like, oh, yeah, won that, won that. And you'll forget the real close ones. But when the ones you lose, you'll remember for a long time. They don't go away so easily. You're like, oh, thank God got me. I don't know if I've said to you about 2-1 to Costa. No, I've never mentioned that. Okay.
What's that?
No, I have a famous one with Costa a couple of times, 2-1 on the judges. Costa wins. No one ever mentions it. I wonder why, because they don't care. But to me, I'm like, man, I was like, it's this close. It doesn't matter how close it is. If you lose, you lose. Yeah. So but it was good to see Costa winning. Down the line, pulled off a couple of stumps in the final. On that end bowl as well. I mean, top of Spurgeon's table with the tide dropping or something, because it just looked like that started setting up. It's
there's a little like a boil thing or whatever. Some kind of little inside reef bit. He I mean, in the final, he would deserve to win, didn't he? I mean, like, there was no real controversy there. Julian Salmon sailed. He's sailing really well. But it was. Look, overall, it was a. I mean, look, it was positive for windsurfing in the sense of, obviously there's an event that's now a 4-star at Margie's, and it deserves probably to be a big event. I mean, it's the location it's actually a perfect wave sailing event location. It's not always.
It's one of the best.
Yeah, because
for me, it's in those. If I had to pick a break in like a small tour, Margie's is in that. Because it's that massive hit, maybe 2 hits if you're lucky, but that one big hit is what it's all about. And that for competition, and it's big, like you say, we watched that competition, logo to mast high, and everyone's going, it's not really working very well. And you're like, that just says this place is the perfect windsurfing spot. It gets a bad rap in the surfing world. They're like, why are we going to Margaret River? Whereas windsurfing, we're like, yes, we got to go to Margaret River, but still they support the surfing more. Kind of frustrating.
Yeah, and actually, often the sailors in the event don't want it too big, because then they limits their flexibility, some of their options. Yeah, like, obviously when it's a bit smaller, they can sort of go for it a bit more or try to different sort of tricky things. But look, it's pretty ideal. It's a bit like an Australian version of Hoa Keeper or something, isn't it? Like, same sort of setup, and it's very consistent. Hoa Keeper.
I'm sorry. I just
what are you laughing at?
Your pronunciation is good. No, it's good. I wasn't laughing. But I was just thinking he's been to Maui. You can tell he's picked it up. And now you're sponsored by Doya. There's probably in your contract, every time you mention it, right, you have to say, keeper. Otherwise, you're off the team.
That's right. Exactly. Yeah. No, I won't be let back in the country. But Anyway, we'll see what happens. Obviously, there's a lot of goings on in the pro windsurf world when it comes to events and the money needed to make it happen and everything.
Yeah. It's good, but I mean, you're doing a good job. I know I'm going to blow smoke up your ass here, but you are making me want to go back to Australia. You're annoying me because it's a real pain in the ass to get to Australia, especially with the family. But man, every time I see the videos, like obviously the Dire Straits one I've watched that a fair few times. I showed it to a couple of our guys on the clinic when we were sitting there. And because I think the Dire Straits clip is just a classic anyway, the beginning, where you've got the guy saying, I could literally, he's literally a megastar. He's earning all this money from music. And he goes, and I couldn't get this windsurfing out of my head. I just wanted to give up music. And he was questioning if he was into music anymore because he just wanted to go windsurfing. That's so good. That's like the biggest stamp of approval when you've got someone who's a megastar earning loads of money playing.
Cool, isn't it?
Fuck, I love that. Like, and there was a few of them, and there's in that whole interview, I think he said he got taught by Sting. Sting was a windsurfer and he was going out to the islands in the Caribbean somewhere. And then they were on a tour with him or something and he got them into it. And I just think that's so good. And then following it up with new school windsurfing with some of the best guys in the world, Jager Stone, Julian Salmon, and your footage, which looked epic. Honestly, I've watched that so many times because there's the way you watch it, it's really good for showing the guys how you're moving your hands, what you're doing, how you open the rig. I mean, at the level of craziness, but still you can really see it. But there is, and I'm going to keep this on Australian thing because there's an aerial in there from Julian Salmon, which I was telling someone about the story of Ricky van der Toon from, who was sailing really good at Margs. And I had him down for an outside chance because he's a bit of a lunatic. But he told me once, and I've told this story before, but the aerial in Mauritius where he leveled out his aerial into the flats, landed, his leg broke, his bone come out of his leg and stabbed into the board. And he had to pull it out of the board. And there's an aerial in that Dire Straits video, where Julian lands. And I'm like, oh, because I was telling the story to someone at the time and then that came on and oh my God, it's hard to watch it when I've got that image in my head. But
actually someone mentioned that. At Mark, he said that story as well with the leg breaking, or that one. Oh, it's painful to think about it. No, but thanks for that's cool that you liked it. I it's funny you should mention how you showed some of the guys on your clinics, because I'm certainly no amazing sailor, but I've actually noticed my sailing. I mean, I'm 47. It can be hard to progress. Like you sort of you get these limits, and you're like, oh, it's so hard to push through. I feel like my wave sailing, especially in the sort of cross onshore stuff, has definitely improved a little bit because of when I've been editing these videos, just looking at those videos 1,000 times, like watching Jager Cornish, I'm still only doing probably 30-40% of what he does, because when he bottom turns, if you watch it, he's really bending his knees hard, like he's almost like crouching, and then just the angle of the legs and just the whole body contortion. I mean, because you know what it's like. You're a good wave rider, but generally speaking, for a lot of people, they think they're shredding, and then they see themselves on a video and go, I look like that. Oh, okay, I thought I was shredding harder. Like, well, you know what I mean? Like, it's kind of
we've just done this Send It Academy, so it's a thing. People haven't seen themselves sail. You show them the video, and sometimes it's hard. It's hard. You can see their face just drop. Like, fuck! I really thought I was doing something different. And sometimes it's fucking tough. The worst one is if we've had a really good session, because down the line, as I tell everyone, down the line feels amazing. Watching the video and the feeling, they don't always go together, because you down the line, when you're getting pushed in, you've got power in your sail, you don't have to do crazy good turns, but it feels epic. It's a bit like foiling. You feel like you're doing something, and then you watch it, you're like, it doesn't look like anything. So this can definitely happen for sure. For sure.
Yeah.
So how far is your hand going back in the bottom turn?
Well, still not far enough, but it's definitely an improvement. Yeah. And like I've just noticed, I don't know. It's such a like I don't know. It's interesting, but like wave riding is such an art form. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's very, you can really break it down into very, like, you can almost be the mad scientist about it or something, can't you? Like, it's like, I think it suits people who are very analytical, or like for example, if you look at Jaeger, I mean, I don't know him incredibly well, but he strikes me as a person who's quite analytical. Like, he likes to break everything down into 1,000 pieces. And because whenever I have footage, he always wants it, no matter how crappy it is or whatever, because I know he's going to sit at home and watch that bottom turn 1,000 times and look for any little improvement he can do on it. Like he'll you know what I mean? He's fully
the same. Marsilio Brown's the same. All these guys, you know, not every one of them, but a lot of them are like that. And as again, I say to the guys in the clinic, a wave sailing is like a puzzle. The whole wave is a puzzle. And depending on that, what the wave is, depending on how complex that puzzle is. And the idea is you have to have these kind of pieces of the puzzle, all which could be a floater, an aerial, a late hit, you know, a roundhouse. You know, you tick, basically what you need to do is gain the knowledge of each of these moves individually. And then the ultimate goal is the kind of Cowley-Ciardi style wave where you piece everything together. You know, you get the wave to do it, and then you're looking down the wave and you're looking going, okay, so that section coming up is getting very fast. I've got an aerial to land in there. Then it slows up. So I need to slow down with like a big hack where I can kind of come back on myself, you know, slow the wave down a bit. And then you've got a race. Then you might be able to pull a trick. And, you know, that's the joy is ticking all these things off and then putting them all together. And this is why wave sailing, I think, never gets old, because it's extra thing about it.
Oh, it's full on. It's full on. It's you can never master it 100%. Like it's just, there's so much to learn. It's pretty interesting, isn't it? It's almost like the more you get into it, the more you realize, oh, okay, it's like the rope gets longer the more you know, because you're like, oh, I'm that far away now, and then you know more. You go, oh shit, that rope has now gone further along. You know what I mean? Like it's a bit,
yeah. You got to be the right personality as well to take it, because I think some people like just switch off and just enjoy it, and that's totally fine. Like no one's judging anyone. It's like you do what you've got to do. Like, and again, we get different people on the clinic, and some are just intent on, you know, incremental like improvements, just little bit here, there, and then some people are like, you can tell they just enjoy. They don't really want to totally analyze it, and then the others are like every moment, every detail. And the problem is, what you have to do is you kind of got to master technique, which sometimes is harder because then you're thinking too much, so you don't flow. But you've got to master it, understand it, and then once you do that, then you start going back into the flow. So you kind of, most of the time, people go backwards a little bit, because as soon as you start thinking in windsurfing, everything goes too slow. But you first got to understand it and do that before you can start going on autopilot. Because, you know, Jaeger is like, it's like chess. You know, you're thinking 5 moves ahead on that wave. Jaeger's thinking way ahead of everyone else. He's going, right, smack that, do that. And then every so often you have to change because the wave maybe doesn't do what you want. And if you haven't got those skills to adjust, this is where it comes unstuck. You know, if you've already planned and you're already homing in and you can't change your mind because you can't adjust, this is when it starts to go very wrong. It's a bit of everything.
To me all the time.
Yeah, but that's why it's so good. You know, that's why
it's cool. It's cool. Yeah. No, it's one of the sort of side benefits of doing what I do, and anyone else that spends a fair bit of time filming windsurfers, is the benefit is actually watching it and trying to learn. And that's why I also enjoy putting a lot of the videos out, and especially I've been doing a fair bit with slow-mo. I mean, sometimes I kind of like, I don't want too much, you know, you don't slow-mo because you just want to see it in real time. But things are happening so fast that if you see it in real time, you literally will miss 90% of what's going on. You also need that slow-mo, especially in the bottom turns and stuff, just seeing the little movements and the hand movements. I find the hand,
I have a confession. So I am not a massive fan of slow-mo. I've been on record saying, oh my God, get rid of the slow-mo. But, and there is a big but, with that video of yours, I thought it was used well, because I'm like, that added to the experience. And then sometimes I've watched a whole video of slow-mo and it just kills me.
Okay, it's cool. It's cool.
Song, the edit, everything has to make sense. And with that, you wanted to see it slower because you're like, wow, what the frick happened there? How did he do? And you like, because the waves break, you see him coming up, you like, everything just kind of makes sense. And again, I guess it depends what mood you're in, depends on the edit, depends on lots of things. So slow-mo has definitely got its place. Used correctly, it enhances the experience, I think. Used badly, it's kind of frustrating when they're slow-mo.
For sure.
Don't want to be slow.
Yeah. Well, tell me if you ever think it's frustrating, because sometimes you get in your own little bubble and just think, oh, this is okay, and everyone else thinks this is crap. But
you're a leader, mate. We're just following. You just lead the way, and I'll just be like. But I'm usually quite renowned for saying what I think. Again, not to say that I am everyone's view. I say this to everyone. People ask me opinion on things. I'm saying, look, I can give you my opinion, but that's it. That's all it is. That's just my opinion. And I'm definitely been wrong a few times. But for me personally, and sometimes I change my mind. Some things grow on me. It's like when you hear an album from a band. And you think, fuck, I'm not sure about this. And then the more you listen to it, sometimes it turns out to be the best album you've ever bought. Even though the first listen was kind of like, what the hell? I'm not sure where this is going. And then some of the albums you buy where you kind of into it straight away, you get over them very fast. So I think there's different ways to.
Yeah. But I find that if I read a lot of the comments on the videos and stuff, I just notice if there's a fair few people saying, oh, I like watching slow-mo because I can learn something. And I think that's the thing with these videos too. It's not just about entertainment, but like if it can help you progress somehow, like it's a double value, entertainment plus education or something.
Yeah, but I'll be honest, what I have learned, and I do that a fair bit, but I think you've got to go with what you think yourself. You can take in sort of external comments, but you have to be, I think anyway, you have to be very don't use the comments as everything. I'll not even say the comments, the internet. If you use the internet as your biggest indicator of which way to go, sometimes you go down the wrong route, which is away from what you personally think. And I think some of the best people that I watch, whether it be commentators, video makers, influencers, whatever, when they've got their own solid kind of pattern and they just trust their own judgment, they're taking external bits, but they're kind of going down their own path. I usually prefer that way more than when they just pander to the sort of mainstreamy bit where everyone gets pushed. And then you find people are just doing the same shit and they go away from any controversy. They go away from everything. I know you're not that person, but you know what I mean? It's like you see it with a few and you think you go in the wrong way. I've started following you because of these things. And now because you've got a bigger audience, you're changing away from it. I'm guilty of it a little bit because it's hard not to. When you get a bigger audience, maybe you get younger people, maybe you get older people. So then it's difficult because I've seen it with a lot of people.
Well, we're all guilty of it to a degree, and some a lot less than others. Because I think it's funny. This is an interesting topic on its own. I probably won't get into it too much, but you're sort of talking more like in the creativity side of things. In a sense of like not just because basically you live in a society, and whether you like it or not, they have a huge influence on who you are as a person and how you see things, and just the box you create, like this box for yourself, And so I find, like, even with myself, with making a video, it's almost like you can turn it into a bit of an art form thing. But I have my limitations where I'm just like, I can't go. I have this limit where I'm just like, how do I get to there? But I can't, it becomes this wall thing. You know, it's actually interesting. You sort of realize that you've created a limitation for yourself in your mind, and then you're kind of like, how do I break through that? And it's an interesting thing.
In terms of what, creativeness or getting more views?
I don't know, well, just anything in life, right? Like, I don't know. In my case, say making a video, you know, like I could say, well, there's probably 1,000 different angles or ways of filming or something that I haven't even done because I've limited myself, because I haven't even thought, I haven't allowed myself somehow to, I don't know. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you know how sometimes you watch a video on YouTube and you go, this is just different to everything else I've ever seen or something. And why is that? Because that person has somehow, it
is interesting. I mean, I definitely know what happened to me was when you're trying to pump out videos, and this is a very dangerous place to get to if you're trying to be creative and do something different, is a time scale. You've got to do stuff, you know. And again, I've been guilty of this, is where you're trying to do stuff and you don't do what you used to do because now you've got to pump it out by a certain day and then you lose that kind of creative, kind of off the cuff change, you know, like sometimes you're just not in the mood to make a video, and I don't give a shit how much money you pay me. It ain't gonna be something epic because sometimes I just need and it's kind of why I go missing for a couple of weeks every so often, because I need to kind of get my mojo back to do it. And if I don't, I'll be able to put out a video, but I just won't be into it. And again, I'm trying to balance these things. You know, doing a lot is always difficult, but you want to have those interesting kind of funny bits and the bits that take a bit more time. And people probably don't appreciate how much time some little bits cost. I know you would, because I remember the one with Jager with all the sound bites and stuff. And if you watch it, you would never know that would take that long. I definitely know it takes that long, and they're the bits that give the user experience. It's kind of mad, kind of interesting.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, if you look at everyone, they all have their own flavor. Like, I look at yours, you've got your own flavor. You look at Nico Prien's,
Nico Prien's, let's put it out there. Nico Prien's is obviously the one that is ticking the most boxes for the majority of windsurfers, because like it or not, getting the most views. Like, and in theory, the view count is really all you can go on if that's what you're looking at, getting to the most people. I've started looking at my stuff a little bit different because you're dealing with a more niche market, maybe. I don't know. Or maybe it's not a niche market, and that's why. I don't know. It's an interesting one, because sometimes I look at some views for certain videos. I'm like, wow, how? I mean, I look at, you know, because you have to look around. Storms are the winner. And that makes sense, because storms are universally accepted, even if they're not windsurfers. I don't mind watching a storm of some kayaker in a storm. I would never watch a kayaking video. But if it was like there's some water getting released and this storm and this kayak, you're like, well, let's have a look at this. Because there's obviously only a limited amount of windsurfers, you know. And then you've got to think, okay, who are we trying to service with all this stuff? But what is interesting is the storms. The UK has just had a pretty decent storm, and they just had the coldwater kind of Cornwall Classic, which is, I think it's what do they call it? The cold. Let's have a look, because Alfie just sent me the British Association Cornwall Coldwater Classic, which is the first British wave comp of the year. So
sorry, because when did this happen?
Just this weekend. Literally just happened. And this apparently, this apparently is the worst wipeout of the weekend, or one of them.
That's gnarly.
That is gnarly.
Look at that again.
For anyone who's listening audio only, this is chop hop to barrel ride at the Cornwall Coldwater Club.
It's funny. It didn't look like much of a wave at the start, and it just kind of got bigger down the line. That's
so
crazy.
yeah. Alfie has been down there. So we're going to have Windsurfing TV. There's going to be a video coming out of this event, but they had it.
Can you pause
Apparently,
it? Can you pause it?
Epic. I'm actually not even sure who that is. I'll be honest. But I do have some rough cuts here. I haven't looked through them, so we can maybe add these to the stage. Can you see those? I'll just have them on in the background. But this is just an idea of some of the rough cuts. I think he sent it to the BBC because one of the guys who helped organize the event, actually, all of the guys, I think, into the organization event were on the Send It Academy a few years ago. That's Joe, I think. So Joe was kind of one of the guys pushing. And yeah, so they've got this event together because those boys are all based down there and they were keen to get it on. But I mean, this is what happens when you do a competition on a forecast. This is Jamie Howard. He was in Cape Town. I think he comes second or third at the third.
Oh, that was cool.
At the freestyle event in Cape Town. Jamie Howard.
That's sick.
Yeah. A freestyler turned into the waves and did all right by the looks of it. So there's some but it was apparently like Phil Horrocks won it in the pro division from what I saw. Sarah Bibby or Sarah Hilda in the women's. So it looked like it looked like an epic event. I read something from Phil. Yeah, it was pumping. What did I read from Phil earlier?
It's nice and smooth.
Cross off 40. 84.
That's a pretty sick spot. How often is it?
Is one of the best. When it's on, it's on. Gwyvion is Camp and the Bluff as well, but right down that coast can be so good.
Oh, that was a sick hit. Wow. Geez, that's pretty solid.
Oh yeah, it was pumping.
Bush, sick. Is this where they had the Red Bull event?
Yes. Yes.
All right.
So they had Gwyvion, which was absolutely massive and a bit kind of side shore to on, a little bit on, and then they went up to the Bluff, which is just further up the road, and that's when they. Did you make that? No. Okay, that was the save of the day.
What would you score that, Benny? Is that a Kelly Slater thing?
I mean, see, I am all for tens. That was just epic. But I know in judging terms, in theory, it isn't. But that was pretty rad, man.
Wow. That was real
good, wasn't it?
Upwind pushy. That was interesting.
Looks so good. I'm looking forward to the video because for anyone listening audio only, just stay tuned to Windsurfing TV, man.
He held on. That's insane. Did he hold on to that?
Yeah, that was
nuts.
But this was we were going, like I said, to Send It Academy. This is what I was saying. This is a way to get out of that. The only way you could do it is catapult and try and sink it, like dig quite a hole.
He got his sail in exactly the right position.
Yeah.
It's amazing he was still trying to
Like,
it actually looked like he might have. I would have loved to have seen what happened after that because it almost looked like
maybe you will in the full video. Maybe you will.
That's
just
awesome.
In case,
actually, I heard.
Just in case you forgot.
Can we pause it? Can I pause it on the? Hold on. I'm gonna take control of this video. Hold on.
Okay.
I want to just see.
That is chop hop down the wave to barrel. At this point, it's over. Oh my god!
Mate, it's a good way to get injured, isn't it? Doing that. Far out.
Savage.
Mate, imagine your feet were still in the straps.
In one of the coaching clinics, we had 3 guys with battered, one with a black eye, smashed nose, one with a cheek out here, one with the head.
Yeah.
Oh my god, yeah. So yeah, it's pretty savage windsurfing in pretty savage conditions, but so good to see that. Like, that is what windsurfing's about. You want to go on a forecast, and I'm loving the fact that we're getting people stepping up and organizing these competitions, because it is a thankless task. You've just done the wave rally, and I'm sure you will definitely confirm this. It is not easy organizing an event, but to do it on a forecast, it's hard, obviously, because you can't plan too much. But when you get conditions, if they'd have gone on a fixed weekend, there's a very good chance you wouldn't have got that. And had they held it over this, they had a time period for this and just went, you know what, it's looking good, let's go for it. And you get that. That's what you want, isn't it? That's what windsurfing's about. That's like crazy way to kick off the British tour.
Yeah. No, look, I think in a lot of cases that's how it should be done, especially for wave events. It's
Well, it just makes sense.
Focus
we need the wind to align. We need the waves to align. Sometimes the tides to align. It's like, are you going to get that on a fixed weekend, let alone a week? Let alone a weekend. Well, you're not going to get it in a week probably. But if you only got a weekend or 3 days, it really needs to be off and on depending on the forecast, because it costs a lot of money. I know in the UK, traveling around the UK, with fuel costs and accommodation and sorting it all out, it's not easy, because you're going to only have last minute times to book everything. But if you're going to score, I think most people would rather do that and put the money out, a little bit, maybe more, and guarantee they're going to get some action.
I'll put something out to you. This is, I don't know, tell me if this is a crazy idea, but we're talking before about judging and What would happen if you had a world tour, so to speak? Well, say you pick 4 spots, or whatever, 4 spots, but the events, you just take the top, whatever amount, maybe not too many, the top 12, 16 people or whatever. And you're doing it purely on a forecast, right? So, but what you're compromising on, obviously, when you normally go to an event, they set up marquees, they set up all this infrastructure. You just go, well, we can't do any of that because we're basically going somewhere on a forecast. Yeah. The other issue is the judges, because, like, let's just say we go, in a week's time, Margie's is going to go off. Everyone get over there. And then rather than have all these judges flying around the world trying to work it out, is you film it, and then the judging happens after the fact. Like, you basically look at the event, like you look at the heats, and then you can just dissect every freaking wave. The result sure, you don't have that moment at the event where someone's staying on the podium, but then you get a result, and then you move on to the next event, and that would be, and at the end of the year, I mean, I don't know.
I think, it's interesting, and there's certain bits I like about it. I think the problem you're going to have is a bit like we've seen in football with VAR. You think when you film it and we dissect it and everything's easy and perfect, it's not. Because if it's not filmed and it's not perfect, people excuse you because they go, but, whereas now they draw a line and it's on the fucking line. And it's like, ooh, and then you're like, ooh, was that turn better than that? And you're looking at it, you're like dissecting, you're like, well, I still don't know. It's just now you've got lots of time. So you're like, it loses the atmosphere, everything. So there is certain things I think about judging it online, which wouldn't work. You could do it, but this is the problem they've said before as well, because if the camera that's filming is at a different angle, at a different spot, then certain things can look easier or harder depending on the angle of the footage. And that is the same with the judges' tower. But I think you've then got an excuse that it's human error, it happened real time. But I know what you mean. It makes sense, because what you really want to do is a little bit like the storm chase was when they did those 4 venues when Traversa won, where you go on a forecast. Now, it doesn't need to be a storm, because, a storm is crazy. But if you're just looking for great conditions, hardcore great conditions, that was pretty cool. That was a worthy champion when you saw them perform in, Ireland. We saw them in Tasmania. What was the other one? Cornwall. Was it 3? Was it 4? It was Maybe it was 3. My brain has gone. There might have been another one, but still, that remember, if you look at that video now, the conditions they got, the craziness, I thought that was cool. And for that to be a world title, I think now with the way there is more structure in terms of the lower events, 4-star, 3-star, 2-star, you can now have this rolling ranking which positions the top 16, because before it was tricky. You'd be like, well, if we don't do the world tour, what are we left with? Whereas now, with the way they're trying to do it, again, is everything perfect? No, but we do have sort of a star ranking system. Then you could potentially have a top 16, which is a worthy top 16. And there's also a way for the non-tops, the outside the top 16 to break in to the top 16 and to get part of these events. You still want those top 16 guys to be doing the other events as well. That's the problem with it all. Because otherwise the top 16 guys just do 3 or 4 events a year and they're like, I kind of like doing the other ones. And it's not so easy, but there's definitely something in it. There's definitely something in it.
Yeah. It's just obviously the being able to run an event on a forecast is pretty cool, isn't it? I mean, then you're guaranteed conditions.
I agree. I definitely agree.
It's a tricky one.
That's how windsurfing for me should be. If you can do it, it's like, it's great. When Gwyvians is on, as you can see, amazing. But we've had a few events where you've had to go and there's no forecast. A lot of the time it's delivered, but for the ones that it doesn't deliver, it's kind of like, well, that's cost me 500 quid. That's cost me 1,000, whatever it is, to just go and not do anything. And that's hard when I think most windsurfers have jobs. In my experience, most good windsurfers have jobs where if it's windy or good, they can take time off. Otherwise, you don't get to be that good. It's like, I've said this as a joke to a few people. It's like, if you needed a doctor, just go to a kite surfing beach. There's probably about 5 doctors there. They all seem to be kite surfers. I'm in Nalu, someone has a problem. Oh, kite surfer rolls up. Oh, I'm a doctor.
Yeah.
It's like they always seem to be blooming doctors. And I'm sure with windsurfers, it's the same. There's a lot of people who've got their own businesses, either they're carpenters or they're, something like this, or they kind of can get time off. If you're level, you've got to be able to have that time off when it's windy. Tree surgeon, great job if you're, windsurfer, because when it's windy, you can't chop it down. So, there should be a careers officer that has that job. Oh, you're a windsurfer. Okay, so here's your list of jobs that you should be aiming for. These are all jobs that you can't do when it's windy, or there's shift work. So Jager's a fireman now. I'm guessing still a fireman. Yeah. So
he's enjoying
4 days on, 4 nights, 4 days, 4 days off, or something. So effectively, you can end up with days. Kind of.
No, it's pretty good. It's pretty good for him. Yeah. So Billy's also saying here they had to roll over the Cornish event to the second weekend. Yeah. So what, they ran it over 2 weekends?
I think it could have been, I can't remember, but I think there was 2 rollover dates. There could have been more, but I know it was a rollover. They were looking at the first weekend. They were like, nah, it's not going to work. And then next weekend, and then everyone was like, oh my God. I started seeing the WhatsApp groups going, oh, this is looking good. Let me find this comment from Phil. I thought it was pretty interesting. Oh, damn. Okay. Can't log into my Instagram. I'll put it on my phone.
Can I find it? Also, just while you're doing that, so there's a comment here from Martin. Quick question. What happened to PBB's Clint Eastwood video shooting kiters? Did you have to remove it? I saw the comment before, Martin, and I'm trying to remember exactly what
I got hate online.
Was that? Okay.
I had a video where we were shooting people and people kind of lost it a little bit.
Yeah, I know. It's a touchy subject at the moment, where probably at any time shooting. But I can't remember exactly which video that is, Martin. I have had a few funny, spoofy ones. But anyway, sorry, mate. Can't remember exactly which video you're talking about. I've made too many bloody videos over the time. What are you looking for?
Okay, well, this is the results, just because we're on the Cornwall Classic. Pro men, Phil Horrocks in first, Ben Page in second, Andy King in third, and I think Meldrum was fourth.
Okay, that's
women,
cool.
Sarah Hilda, Izzy Adcock, and Corey McFarlane. Ian Gibson, Scotsman up there. That's interesting because Scotty McDowell, his mates, was in Cape Town with me, so he would love to see that. Tim Watson as well. Alex Rhodes, again, he was the one on the who was I guess helped organising it with Joe, and and the guys, I think. So yeah, no, it's
That's
good.
super cool.
So, but
awesome.
yeah, there's a message here from the winner, which was Phil, and this is the comments. He says, "Whoa, actually, let me just." Let's have a look because there was some pretty epic pictures. John Carter was there as well.
Oh, awesome!
Stats.
Pretty hardcore sailors over there.
Yeah, I mean, there's some sanders. I mean, what an epic few days in Cornwall! Congratulations to all the event. This is from Phil Horrocks. That will be one we talk about over a beer for a few years to come. A true classic. Epic conditions, side offshore, big waves, challenging, gnarly, and glorious all at the same time. I don't think I've sworn that much for a while. There are some situations that no amount of talent can get you out of, and you've just got to take the flogging that comes your way. I had my fair share. Amongst it, though, was peppered with moments of magic, some big clean faces, and to jam a rail in a turn. What a buzz. Then just goes, yeah, use my simmer flyway, black tip, blah, 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 monsters. Yeah, so... yeah, sounds like it just sounds good, man. When you've got like a guy like Phil saying that, you know he took some beatings. You know, and when we see with few of the ones we saw on there, it must have been yeah. I'm looking forward to the video. I watched the Tyree Wave Classic that Alfie did as well, and it made me go, oh man, I wish I was there. So I have a feeling the Cornwall one will be very similar.
Someone was telling me, I can't remember who, but the sort of wave sailing scene is fairly healthy at the moment. Or like, you know, is it, or like those comps, they're actually pretty well attended, or they've even sort of had a bit of resurgence or something in the UK. Yeah.
Yeah, we've got some really good sailors. I mean, you've got to remember the UK is relatively small with a lot of coastline, and we grew up with really good competitions, you know, from early days like Andy Groom, Tyree Wave Classic. You know, through all my time in the UK, we've had amazing competitions and a really strong scene. And then I would say maybe a few of us have stepped out of it, but the boys have kept it going. But I feel like there's another surge coming. I feel like there's another bit of talent. And I know the Mailing Room, who have been supporters of Windsurfing TV and have been helping out the British Wave Sailing Association, have put money into the Future Pros, which is kind of their, you know, kids project. Lucas Meldrum was one of these guys who came through that, and he's won the British title now, and he's won Tyree Wave Classic as well. And you can see there's younger kids are coming through. We've seen it in Pozo with the kids, and I think this makes a big difference. And then you've got the guys who now are masters, and they're mega keen. You know, these are the guys I think that are pushing. I think these guys are the ones that are making it happen. And again, a massive, you know, tip of the hat to the guys that wanted this to happen, because without those guys, I know Joe messaged me, who was one of the organizers, saying this is what we're going to do. The boys are getting together. We're going to make it happen. You know, and they put it all out there, really, you know, to make it happen. If without those guys, it doesn't happen. It's like no matter how much enthusiasm there is, unless somebody puts the graft in, puts the work in, you know, puts their own time in, like you will know with the Wave Rally, it just doesn't happen. And people, I think for a long time, I know when I was doing the tour, I would hear people talking, oh, this is should make this better. I'm like, in the head, you're thinking, well, what are you doing? What, you know, Windsurfing TVs, same thing. There's always a lot of comments of how your videos can be better, what you should do different. And you're like, all right, but what are you doing? Because just doing something itself is massive, you know, just doing something in my experience creates it. But
it's human nature sometimes, isn't it? Yeah, I get it. And I do have a much more of an appreciation after the Wave Rally event. Is it something I can just quickly touch on while on this particular podcast?
Yeah, for sure. Like I said, this podcast for me was just a little bit. I think there's stuff been going on, and the Wave Rally is definitely in that basket. Well, I'm sure. I mean, it probably got its own podcast, but
Oh, yeah, I won't keep it too long. I'll try not to. But yeah, it was just also that was an interesting experience for myself. You know, anyone who's either done a windsurf event or thinking about it, it was super interesting. If you haven't seen, I've just uploaded. Is it here? Hold on. How do
Is it happening again? Are you going again?
Yeah. Well, I've started the planning for it. This was like a bit of a roundup video I did at the end. I had a lot of footage, so I tried. It was just to make a bit of a highlight. But no, it was. God, where do I start? It was overall, it was a really positively received event. I was a bit worried. On the first day of the event, it was actually raining. Like I was driving out to Coronations and it was sprinkling. And if you've ever been to Geraldton in January, it's just about unheard of that you get rain here in January. And the forecast was, and it was going from 30 knots to the forecast a week leading up was just looking crazy, like 30, 35 knots, solid swell. And then I just watched it deteriorate to 15 knots. This footage here is actually from the very last day. The couple of last hours, the wind went up to 20 knots. But for basically at 90% of the event, we had 15 knots. And I'd organized these inflatable windsups, which you'll probably see in a second, I think. And they saved. Oh, here they are. I'll just pause it. They absolutely saved the event. So the wind was like it was actually perfect. 15 knots is fantastic for this. That's all you need. But the way it worked was you read the rules were it had to be a max 5 batten sail. And there was a few funny things that happened in the event. The rules were you're allowed to bring max 5 batten sail. And the boards had to be a multi-fin wave board or free wave board. That no slalom or this kind of thing. But what happened was that the whole intention was that we're all just on wave type gear, because when you go to Coronation on any given day, everyone is using wave gear there. Nobody uses slalom gear there or even free ride gear really. It's just they all just use, because it's more of a, it looks flat on that image and it is flat in the bay, but as you know, there's waves there and stuff in the back. But what ended up happening is, and this certainly will be rectified in the second event, was that, I had Mr. Ben Severn, who has his own sail loft, turn up with a 7.5 meter 5 batten sail that he'd cheekily put together. And then we also had boards like Severn dynos or like sort of free wave boards, which I had said technically they are allowed. They have 3 fins, but they have a power box in them. And so people were turning up with boards with, 40 centimeter fins in them and, this kind of stuff. So, and then having like these boards, you can have double foot straps on the back and move the and anyway, so by and large, like when it was on these boards, it was fine because everyone's on the same board. Although people were pushing the limit with this sail size, like I said, it was 7.5, which is an obvious example. And then when the wind got up to 20 knots, everyone transferred to their wave gear. But if you had a proper wave, I say a proper wave board, but you know what I mean, like a quad or something, or a wave.
You can put a proper slalom fin in a power box, and it makes a big
exactly
difference.
Yeah. So when the wind got up, some people had that type of board. Max, there's a comment here. It says, "Why do Aussies cheat?" That's so funny. They sometimes they do. But it was So in the final, the dyno won the event because when a board like that, it has a very flattish rocker line and will basically smoke just about anything. So the lesson learned from the event was that for next year, and also, so I have to just preface this, there were 3 weight divisions in this event. There's a lightweight, middleweight, and heavyweight. At registration, the women are all in one division. They're just women. There was 14 women that entered and 64 men. There was about 80 all up. But the men were all weighed and then divided into 3 equal weight categories. So equal sized, right? So not just, but there was no limit on sail size. Then when the 7.5 came about and people were complaining, oh, Paul, someone's brought a 7.5. Blah, blah, blah. Then I had to get up on stage and say, okay, sorry, I didn't think about this. I didn't know there was a 7.55 batten. I mean, obviously it was a custom sale. I asked, well, that's the thing, because I looked on the websites, and usually most sail makers, the biggest size sales you get 5 batten is like 6.3 or 6.5, that kind of size. But I got up on stage and I said, all right, sorry guys, no more. That type of sail is banned. Someone had an LT sail, which is technically correct. It has less than 5 battens, but it pulls like a train, so I had to get rid of them as well. But then the heaviest guy in the event was a spotty, and he's 115 kilos. And I said to him, well, what's your biggest wave sail that you have? And he said a 6.3. So then I said, okay, that's it. No one's allowed to ride bigger than a 6.3 sail, right? Because that was that. Problem is that if you get a 70 kilo guy and he borrows that 6.3 and he's in a heat against his other mate who's 70 kilos and his biggest sails are 5, again, you have a problem.
Yeah.
So next year, what's going to happen is there's new rules, right?
You're laying down the law.
I'm actually looking forward to it. Yeah, and it's there's a big majority of this event I'm going to agree with it. They already have. They've reached out to me. So first of all, lightweights, it's maximum sail size 5 meters. Yeah. Middleweight, max sail size 5.6, and a heavyweight, max sail size 6.3. That just cuts out the equipment race with the sail straight up, right? So that's that. And then with the boards, unfortunately, like in Europe, these would be a big thing, but in Geraldton, it's not really that big a thing. There's no more. If you've got a power box or tuttle box, it's not allowed in this event, because that just basically eliminates fast rocket boards. Now, the thing is, you have to remember, we're doing this event in Geraldton, which is a high quality spot normally. And, so if you're not on windsups, it's probably 25, 30 knots there.
It's usually waveboard weather.
Yeah. If you had this event in, I don't know, a Euro spot where your average conditions are 15 to 18 knots and it's onshore all the time, then you would allow that type of gear, because that makes perfect sense for that location. You know what I mean? But in Geraldton, if you go there on a holiday and it's a normal windy day, 95 to 98% of people are not using like power box free wave boards. You know what I mean? They're on. So therefore you need to cater to that mass. You can't go, well, 95% of you have that board, but we're going to let 5% of people in with these fast rocker boards and just smoke you all. It takes the fun out of it. Essentially. And so some people have this idea of, just make it a free for all. But then the problem is it's no fun for really anyone at that point, because all these people
is someone will bend the rules, and usually it's Severn.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, the thing is, he's a local. Well, he's a local. They've got, that's the thing too. So no, but what I'm saying is any of the locals will have resources that they can use to their advantage by just having more sails at their disposal, or boards, and, this kind of stuff. Whereas what I'm really trying to do is, all these people are turning up in Geraldton, and their biggest sail size they're bringing is a 5.5 or a 5.3, because they're just going there to sail the windy days. They're not going to bring a 6.5 for an event. That's
And like you say, you've got the windsups for the lighter winds anyway. So then, in theory, as soon as you're on the smaller board, it's windy. I mean, looking at it like this is not normal in January. Let's be honest.
No, that's right. And so it was anyway. And the other thing was, basically the windsups were used up to 20 knots. Essentially, that was the kind of general thinking. If it gets to 20 knots, well, then you should have gear that can get you planing at that point, and it worked. I mean, it got to 20 knots. It was a bit sort of marginal. This was, at nighttime, we had the DJ, and, this was fun. And, what you don't see in these shots is, like, here I'm flying the drone and I'm shouting in the microphone at the same time, everyone dance, dance, dance for the video, like, like I'm having to like rev them up and stuff. But, look, it was super cool. I'm going to do it again. I'd love to see the event, obviously, in a windier, where it's actually proper winds. Yeah. There was hardly any swell either. So as you can see, it looks, there was a bit of a wave out the back there, but obviously, but no, it was cool.
I still want a beach finish.
Yeah. Well, yeah. The thing is, maybe I'll end up doing that in the final. So for anyone just to explain what Ben's talking about. Initially, the idea was you run up the beach and through a finish line or something like that. But the feedback I had was, the problem with a beach finish is,
Carnage.
as event it's carnage. Like if people are, like if you have a proper windy day there, 30, 35 knots, and you had a close finish, you'd have people absolutely flying to the beach.
That's the best thing.
And yeah, I know. Look, don't get me wrong. Like it'd be awesome footage, but I have to think about insurances, injuries.
I nearly broke my neck. Like Lancelin always had a beach finish, and I honestly nearly broke my neck because you want to get that place or that that extra place, and you come in full tilt and you jump off, and it's quite surprising how hard that is to judge. I mean, it's probably easier with wave kit, maybe, but with the slalom kit, bloody hell, it is carnage. They've got like 20 people removing boards and sails, and it is carnage, but fun carnage.
No, I know. So, and also, I wanted to make this event as kind of inclusive as possible. The age range went from 13 to 72. So, and people had, like there's some people that said, look, please don't make it a run up the beach because my knees are just not that good, or you know what I mean. Like it was kind of, I tried to cater it to the masses, try to make it pretty. So that was basically sick. In a nutshell. Yeah, no, it was cool. And I think the other interesting thing was straight after that event was the Oceania Youth event, which is obviously like a wave event for the under 20s. And that was also really successful. And then, the week before Wave Rally was the Cervantes slalom event, and that's a really cool event. And then a few weeks after the youth event was the Margie's event. So we had this month where we had 4 solid events. Good. And I think it's kind of put windsurfing a bit back on the scene again, because it was a bit, the last few years it's been coming back, but this season I think everyone's sort of woken people up and gone, oh yeah, windsurfing's back again with the events in WA a bit.
I can honestly tell you subliminally, well, maybe not subliminally, but with these 3 events, I have ended up, and I'm talking to people on the clinics and stuff, and we're talking about Australia a lot more. So, that's the idea, I guess, but it has a bigger effect than you think, especially with nowadays media and getting it out there. Like we're in Cape Town and we're looking at Oz, and you're seeing your videos coming out, obviously. So we're seeing Jager ripping, Julian Salmon's ripping some videos out there. There's other guys out there as well. Then you've got the events, the 3 events, the Wave Rally. Then you've got the Margaret River. And you're giving more and more reason to go to Australia. You're like, you start to go, oh, and that is the idea. That's why these tourism boards get involved with an event. But having the 3 and the extra riders of a good level out there just starts pushing. Again, you're making videos out there. All that together, you start to go, ooh, it's looking good. Like it's looking good. And what I can say is when I was there, and I said it before on the Margaret River live stream, when I was there, which was 8-9 years ago, something like 10 years ago, that kind of era there was when all these kids were getting, where they started that kids club, which was, Serge and these guys doing the sort of young rippers coming up through. And now when you look at Margaret River, his daughter is pushing it in the women's fleet. The other kids are pushing in the pro fleet. They go into Geraldton and they're pushing the level, landing some, it's like the Jager Stones of the new generation. And they remind me of that kind of era. And it feels like there's a new wave coming through.
Yeah. There's some really, really good sailors coming around, like Jane Simmons' son Jake. He's just improved out of sight. Like he's busting out some big aerials, and it'll be interesting to see where he goes. Peter Kenyon, the guy we were talking about before, his daughter Sarah, who's probably, I'm not sure exactly how old she is, maybe 15 or something, 15, 16, but she's honestly probably arguably the best female windsurfer of her age anywhere in the world, just about. Like she I don't know all the females out there, but you know what I mean, from what I've seen. And she's literally has no fear. Like she'll go out on days where most grown men would just go, no way. Like you know what I mean? Like she's
it's
amazing. So,
And then you've got Marino, Liam Dunkerbeck, these guys that are pushing through on the world level because they've come up through the other, and this is what it takes. It takes 10 years to happen. It's not like you start it and then suddenly it's up and running. It takes time for the whole thing to trickle through.
Yeah.
Who's this?
This is comment here. Oh, this is Jero. This is actually this is Finn, I believe. Finn's the young kid who did a lot of the drone filming at the Wave Rally event. So he's son of Mark, who's part of the Gerald and Windsurf Club. He did an awesome job. He was so good. Unfortunately, Finn's told me they might be not there next year because their family's going overseas. So I'm a bit disappointed. I wanted to come back, but anyway, that was Finn.
Actually, can I change his name?
Yeah, what's that?
Well, it's called Gero Drone.
Oh, Gero Drone Media. Yeah, I know. He's trying to take my job.
He's going to have to change his name if he moves.
Oh, no, he's not moving. No, sorry, he's just for a holiday.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Actually, I've never done this before, but I just want to do this interesting as well. Did you see my little Instagram story I did with this harness? Just a little plug.
No.
Just a quick story. It's kind of interesting. When I was in Maui, do you know a guy called? do you know a guy called Zedinek? He's sponsored by Nash.
Yeah.
So I met him at Ho'okipa, and he was, if you're listening, Zedinek, g'day, mate. And he had this harness, or I mean, not this exact one, but one very similar, hanging in the back of his van. I go, oh, that's an interesting looking harness. Like I just put it close to the camera so you can see the craft work in this thing. It's got a carbon hook like this. Hold on. It's got very strong Velcro on it, but basically this hook is like a one-piece carbon piece that's just Velcroed. Right. And essentially, it's just Velcroed on here. This has got, I mean, I don't know exactly materials, but to me, that looks like some kind of carbon Kevlar backing. This whole harness weighs 550 grams. Like, I don't know if you want to know how light that is get your harness and put it on a scale. Like I've got a fairly lightweight MFC harness and I weighed it and it's 1.5 kilos. I thought that was light. This is 3 times, this is a third of the weight. It literally weighs like a feather. Anyway, I was in Maui. I saw this thing and I picked it up. He goes, pick it up. And I go, my God, this thing is incredibly light. Like I thought, the first thing I thought was if you go traveling with windsurf gear, you've just saved yourself a kilo and a half in this harness. Like it's, anyway, I just thought it was pretty interesting. So it's an X-Booms product, all right? No plug. I'm not sponsored or anything. But I reached out to this company. There's a guy called Jan in Czech Republic. And I said, I found this. I saw your harness, in Keep. It's amazing. Like, is there any chance, like, is there any way I could get one? Maybe I could, through my YouTube, I could do like a review on it, and I'd give an honest review. I'm not going to sort of go just sing its praises if I don't like it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And to my surprise, it's the first time I'd ever done that with a brand, basically, and he said, yeah, okay, that sounds cool. Cause he doesn't do much social media or makes videos. So, anyway, so he sends me this, he puts it in the post, right? There's one big downside to this harness and it costs, have a guess how much this thing costs in euros. Or maybe you know.
Well, now the way you said it, I'm guessing it's looking at the face. And I already had a shock at how much harnesses cost. Like I saw some for 350 and I was like, whoa, I didn't realize harnesses cost that much, which sounds terrible to say that, but that I don't pay for my harness. So I'm guessing it's more.
How much?
450? 550? Jesus, 6? No, 7.
590 euros €590 for this harness. So this is, so basically personally, I don't think I would buy a harness for €590 myself, but that's also because I haven't just got money to burn.
Have you tried it yet?
So I'm going to make a video about this harness, just, giving my opinions. But since I'm talking about it now, I can just maybe, talk.
I've got something I might ask just before you tell me what you found, because looking at it, I know what type of harness I like. And the ones I struggle with is a little bit like that, because it's quite hard. It looks quite formed. And they're the ones I need, like a real almost soggy harness that I can put lower on my hips, like bum. And I know that one will go up, like for me. It won't sit low because I've got a big bum and it sticks out. So if I have a harness like that, my bum makes it ride up my back, and then it pushes in the middle of my back. I had this Dakine one very similar, and it really used to annoy me. So I realized I need like a bigger harness. Like I use a large, and I kind of have it low. But it's interesting because I know some people really like the women, like they have got hips. It's a bit like me. Their harnesses usually are fitted higher up their body, whereas I've got big bums, but I want it lower. So I need a certain type. So I don't think that would fit me, but it looks light. I mean, it does look light, I must say.
Yeah, like I said, for me, its main claim to fame was the lightness, and in case I want to go traveling with it or something. But so I used it the other day, and I let a few of the other guys down at Coros have a go to get a different opinion. And my honest opinion of this harness, and I'll do a bit better job of it in my own video, but is that it offers, this is my opinion, I thought it's less supportive than a traditional harness, because it's quite sort of narrow at this part. Like, my MFC harness, it's sort of more like comes out here a bit more, and you know what I mean? Like it's you get more support. But when you wear it, it feels like you've got nothing on. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, because sometimes I kind of like the feeling of having a harness. It gives you that feeling of kind of support. Like, that feeling you got a harness on, it feels like you've got something on. You wear this thing and it almost feels like you got nothing on. And it kind of a bit weird at first, But it's so basically it's not as locked in. Like if you have a traditional harness, like I said, I can't compare it to all harnesses, but the MSC one, I guess, is more of a traditional style. That gives you a lot of support. It feels very locked in. This feels a lot looser. Like you put it on and it feels like you can just like I think this would be a great harness personally for me if it was float and ride. Well, winging, that'd be I don't wing, but I guess so. But I'm just thinking, like, if you're float and riding and you're not relying on the harness to create too much, you know what I mean? Like, and also if you're at a spot where you're wave riding a lot and you're not hooked in all the time, whereas at Coros you're hooked in 99% of the time.
Is it
then
hard?
You want a harness support.
It looks very sharp.
This is.
Does it dig
That's
in?
hard. Oh no! Well, no. Oh no. So the edges here, these are soft. The edges along here. Yeah. This is all soft. But so basically, the compromise is less support. But a hell of a lot lighter, and expensive. It has a place. It does have a place. Like I think if you're traveling and you want to get down the kilos, you've just saved yourself 1 to 1.5 kilos at least with this thing, which that's something. And if you're wave riding in a spot where you're not hooked in all the time and you just want something that's super light, and so it's interesting. I'm not going to sit here and say this is the best harness in the world as far as like, this beats everything else, because that's not the case. But it's just the thing I liked about it is it's just something different to the norm. And I think in windsurfing it's cool when there's something different. So anyway, so I want to say thanks to X-Booms, and if you do have money to burn and you do travel, or some of the things I've said sounds appealing to you, then definitely check it out. He basically makes them to order. They're all handmade by him. You can customize the colors, the different sizes, all this sort of stuff. So it's just cool. I mean, I just like seeing new things in windsurfing. So
it looks light. It's definitely not my sort of harness. I like a big soggy one for some reason. I don't know, just sit low. And
No, yeah.
you need a bit of weight for it to drop down. And weirdly, I like a little bit of weight in the harness because I do a bit of slalom and a bit of stuff. And having a little bit of weight kind of feels like I'm a bit heavy.
And actually, Billy just said something here that's just reminded me. Another benefit of this, because he says lightweight harnesses are great if comfortable because you're playing earlier. Padded harnesses are rubbish. They take on water. So I've had a harness before where, it's like some of them do take on a fair bit of water. They take on 1 kilo of water or something.
Yeah,
and it can make quite a big difference. Like with this harness, I mean, it might sound extreme, but say you normally ride an 88 liter board, you could use that harness and maybe ride an 86 liter board. Like literally,
I have a confession.
You just saved yourself 1 kilo or 2. Yeah.
I've got a new board. It's 84 liters. And I'm now a sinker. I think I've put on some weight. There's like this magic weight where your board floats or it doesn't float. Because if you're that kilo extra or 2, it makes a big difference. I have gone over the threshold, and my 84 now, because the new board's not an 85, it's an 84. My 84 sinks. So I took 2 boards to Cape Town, a 78 and an 84. My 84 is my light wind board, and it now sinks. I'm like, oh shit. I've got to sink. So I've gone up a level. I'm trying to go on a diet now. I've been on a diet for a week. So let's see how I go. I've got a month left. I was 85 kilos.
Oh, it's funny how you watch your weight can go up and down. How do you eat? Do you have a bit of binges with like?
Yes. I mean, in Cape Town, we're not on holiday, but we're dealing with 3 groups of 10 people who are all, enjoying Cape Town, eating out every night, having a few beers. You're not going to be there eating salads and water. It's just not. I'm not going to be doing that to someone so I just indulge and enjoy it for like 6 weeks, and then that's what's happened. I'm sinking now, so I need to stop sinking because I makes a huge difference. A couple of kilos here and there, especially surfing, paddle surfing. Oh my god, the difference between catching waves and not. And on a windsurfer, I can get away with it because I feel like I'm pretty efficient, but I am, the facts are there. The board, if I have no wind, sinks straight down.
Yeah. Well, that's the other thing. Here I'm talking about a light harness, but a lot of us are carrying a few extra kilos of blubber, around and stuff as well. So But it's Anyway, it's just something that's it was interesting. I think I was also saying to some people the other day, we're just having a random chat about windsurfing at the moment, and I said to them, I personally, and maybe it's just my perspective and where I am at my point in life, but I actually feel like it's a bit of a golden age of windsurfing right now because there's a nice amount of people doing it. You know what I mean? You go to a spot, it's not overcrowded generally, and there's a good good vibe. But we've got the best gear we've ever had. Yeah. There's never been better gear than now. You know what I mean? As far as I'm concerned, I'm pretty sure I'll look back at this time and go, that was a great period of windsurfing, just because it's you know what I mean? You see, because in Australia there's a big issue with surfing. I mean, over here in Gerald, not so much because it's a small place, but if you go to some other parts, there's literally surf rage. Or, there's people, way too many people in the surf, and stuff.
It's as busy as it's ever been now, so everyone's kind of angry. This is the cool thing about windsurfing. There's every so often there's a few words said, but most of the time it's actually pretty cool. It's nice to see windsurfers. I like sailing with people. Yeah. We said it before, but I enjoy sailing with people. I've just seen this comment. Did your harness shrink too? That sound, you're joking, but it did. Now it's actually tight. Oh God! Yes.
The other thing when I was just mentioning about the gear being so good, I've sort of now whoring Goya at the moment, but no, it was.
See that. He's got his wardrobe. Which Goya t-shirt shall I wear today? I don't know.
You have to send me some similar ones.
He goes, "Oh, I've
But
never done this before, but I wrote to the guy with the harness." He says with this freaking guy. I've never done this type of thing.
I'm all over it
ever before.
I've only just.
Are you sure you've never done it?
It's all today. It's I'm milking everything now. Look, I've even got the like he sent me some Experm stickers. I'm going to stick on the car.
Oh, hello.
No.
Hang on, I need to check your Instagram profile to see if you put like professional windsurfer on there or influencer.
I should
or something.
Just stick it on the t-shirt a little. No, that's I don't. This is certainly just in case, just for clarification. There was certainly no paid advertisement for that. I just like that because it was something just different. It's cool. But what I was just with the weight thing is the gear. Like when all brands probably have them now, but when I got the Goya gear, I sort of bought the 100% mast as well. In days gone by, you probably wouldn't use 100% mast for wave sailing, and now a lot of brands have masts like that, and that just saved another 200, 300, 400 grams or whatever it is. Yeah. Like it's just I'm finding windsurfing right now. Yeah. If you're lucky enough to be able to afford this gear, it's actually quite joyful, right? Like the gear is it's quite nice right now, isn't it? I mean, I have memories of when I was learning windsurfing back in the 90s and stuff, and some of the crap I had to put up with, and it's just the kids are lucky; they don't know how good they've got it.
Yeah, no, it's mad. It is mad. It is lucky. And, okay, windsurfing's not going to the mass media and getting seen by a million people. But if you're into windsurfing, there are, you can find a video about anything. When we were growing up, you had to wait for someone to release a video, which has its own coolness. And we won't go into that now, but it was kind of interesting how actually effective that was. But nowadays, you can literally get what you want. You can get anything with. It's just there and it's all ready. It's kind of crazy.
Just quickly too, because we didn't touch on it. Can we just quickly touch on some of the sponsorship changes, or do you have that info?
Well, I think we should do a different video because I do want to get a few of these guys on. I've been speaking to Duotone. We need to get Liam Duncan back on. I think we should have a chat with him, and I think we can maybe pull them in to a podcast, which we'll do in the next week, maybe even this week. And we'll touch on some of these changes as well, because there's been some big kind of high profile changes. It's been one of the interesting years for that sort of thing. So we need to do that before the season properly kicks off. And we see some 5-star events and stuff, but Chile's obviously coming up. There's racing events coming up because we had some good high profile races as well. So, we will be doing that. Like I said, I'm now back home. We have a baby due in the house, a new one in April. So I'm going to be around just in case, all hell breaks loose and it comes out early. So I will be home. I will have the internet. I've got all the kit set up. Don't worry, I won't be live streaming any baby antics. Definitely. But yes, we will be here. So feel free. If you've got any suggestions for podcasts, who you want to come in, we are going to be doing that. I don't know how the availability of Paul is, because I'm going to plan to do quite a few. So if he's available, he's definitely going to be here. But I'll be pulling some people in, because I think we can have some good chats with a few of these guys, which we probably haven't done enough of, bringing other people in, and I think it can be super interesting because some of them we don't always hear from. So I think it'd be cool to put some thoughts and voices to the names and the faces.
Yep, that sounds good. And just before we go, since we have been commenting on everyone's comments, might as well just do Stefan's. What's your thoughts about boards flotation in saltwater versus freshwater? I never sail in freshwater personally.
I don't know the percentage, but obviously, saltwater, you don't need as much volume, or in freshwater, you need more volume. I don't know which way around it is, but without knowing the percentage, I'm sure there is a difference. But once you're up to speed, like in all these things, it's more the lower end of it and the smaller volume.
Yeah. Cool, Benny. Well, what do you reckon? Do we wrap it up?
Yeah, wrap it up, mate. Wrap it up.
Awesome. All right. Well, it's good to
good to catch up
again. Thanks to everybody for listening in. And yeah, cool. All right. Well, we'll hopefully catch you in the not too distant future.
See you then.
See ya.
It's that time of the week again. Sit back, relax, we got the brain of band. No need to stress in the house, is Van Bellen. The game is windsurfing, you can't yell them or tell them. We get the news, the views, the win biz. The brand's gear, just plus the world's best quiz. The Cubs, PWA. We're professionals without the pay. There's nothing in pole dancing that we won't chat. From tandem boards to a windsurfing cat. It's your one-stop shop for a laugh and listen. Tune in each week or you'll be doing the missing.